Hello, everyone. I'm delighted today to be joined by Dr. Eric Arzubi, co founder of Frontier Psychiatry. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. So, would love to start with just the basics on Frontier Psychiatry. How long has it been around? How many team members are there? Give us the basics.
Sure, of course. So Frontier Psychiatry, it's an all telehealth practice. We were founded and launched in, interestingly, March of 2020, which is the month, that sort of COVID took off. It was started by me and a buddy of mine who's a psychiatrist based out of Seattle. We just felt strongly that telemedicine was being underutilized in rural settings, right? So it really had nothing to do with COVID because we've been thinking about that for the year leading up to that. I'm based in Montana. I still had patients driving 4 hours to come see me for a half-hour visit. So moms had to take time off from work, kids had to leave school, and then the expense of driving. So that just didn't make any sense given the technology we had. So launched Frontier Psychiatry that year. We Our focus is on the medical part of mental health, so psychiatry, which includes child psychiatry, adult psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, and perinatal psychiatry. We have about 30 providers at the moment. About half are psychiatrists, and the other half are advanced practice providers, a combination of physician assistants and nurse practitioners. Right now, we started with Montana. I'd say about 80% of our work is still in Montana, but we've expanded as of last year into Idaho and Alaska. Again, really pushing hard to deliver high quality psychiatric care to communities that are typically underserved or don't have access to the quality of care that they deserve.
Is it still the case today, 5 years later, that you feel telehealth is underused in those communities?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly, COVID, I think, accelerated the uptake and the comfort on both the provider side and the patient side. And certainly, telehealth is becoming, I think, more visible. But I've seen studies where there certainly the use of telehealth really kind of spiked, and then it's kind of tapered off in many specialties. It's really tapered off back down to around, I think the general number is around 5 or 7% of all medical visits right now are in telehealth. In mental health, that number's higher. I think it's closely maybe I think it's like around 40% or something. But still, it's interesting to me, even when I go to Alaska and talk to people in really, really, really remote communities, how underutilized telehealth is. They still have people, let's say, who might fly in once a month to see people in person. And it's not necessarily a broadband issue. It's really like anything in medicine, right? It's like this is the way we've always done it. This is what we're used to doing. This is what we're comfortable with. So, still some getting used to and some issues around comfort using telemedicine.
And that comfort is more from providers than it is patients, you think?
Good question. I'd say probably both. I think there's some education required on both ends. Patients, although patients, especially those like if you give patients an option and say, look, you can drive 4 hours for your half-hour visit, or you can stay at home and we'll hook you up with a camera. You can speak to someone. Most patients are going to say, no, no, I'll definitely do the video visit. But there are still providers who sometimes resist the idea of using telemedicine because that's not what they're used to. They weren't trained in it, or they feel that, oh no, in-person care is better. And the way I think about it is that I try to avoid comparing in-person care to telehealth care.
Yeah.
What I do is I compare telemedicine versus nothing at all, or telemedicine versus the real alternative. So to me, it's kind of an artificial debate of, oh, in person or telemedicine. Well, a lot of people don't have the luxury to choose either or. So how can we, as mental health professionals, which is I think is our job, deliver high quality care to the communities?
And do you find that with your practice, I'm assuming it's much greater than 40% telehealth?
Ours is 100% telehealth. We
100,
we
wow.
we chose right away. We said we're just going to only just telehealth, and a couple of reasons. Number one, we felt very strongly that that is in a place like Montana, Idaho, Alaska, the only way to scale access to care is telehealth. I can't be convinced there's another way. Like the alternative is what you put in an office in every town in Montana. Like I don't like. There's really no other way to scale, and also research again has been exploding in terms of what the impact of telehealth visits are, and it's become pretty clear that you can get high quality care over telehealth, and is many times equivalent to that of in-person care.
Interesting. And do you find then, so does this mean that the practice's physical footprint is much more limited than it otherwise would be? You guys have, well, what kind of office space do you guys use?
Sure. We have pretty small office. The office here today, I think we have there's me and another provider, and then we have, I think, four support staff here. But we have about 60 employees, and they're kind of all over the place. What I love, and so there's certainly been a challenge in terms of creating a team spirit, a culture when people are remote. So that's a challenge because this work can be isolating. I know it can be for me. I don't have to come to the office, but I if I spend 2 days working from home, I start getting cabin fever. I need to be around other people. So that's a real, so that's a real issue. But what I love about telepsychiatry, telehealth in general is, Montana only has about 100 psychiatrists, and so with the shortage of psychiatrists in states like Montana, Alaska, Idaho, I can import expertise. I can import, for example, I think there's maybe one perinatal psychiatrist in Montana, but because of telehealth, I can actually, quote unquote, import two of our perinatal psychiatrists to be able to deliver that sort of care statewide. I think Montana has, in the state, has one addiction psychiatrist. We have two on our team that we, quote unquote, import that provide care into Montana. So it's really, again, bringing expertise and resources into areas that otherwise would rarely, if ever, get access to them.
You prefigured where I was going to go next, which is culture. So you and have talked a bunch about culture before. I know it's a big theme in your LinkedIn posts. How have you addressed that challenge of having such limited physical space and having such a remote team? How have you built culture?
First of all, I think I had to, this is a second organization where I've been a leader or led a mental health team. Before this, I worked at a hospital system. That was, I think, starting 2014. I became chair of the Department of Billings Clinic here in Montana and led a group of psychiatrists and staff, about 150 staff. And I learned how not to lead, and made lots of mistakes, and was not. I learned the hard way about how really important culture is, and how absolutely deliberate you need to be about nurturing culture every single day. Because the second there's any kind of vacuum in terms of information or communication, it gets filled with things that aren't necessarily productive. So I read somewhere, and hopefully this resonates. Your organization is going to have culture no matter what. You get to decide what kind of culture. I tried early on to always talk about culture, and really elicit from our teams, what do you want? What kind of place do you want to work at? What do you want from your colleagues? What do you expect from your colleagues? And being very vocal about that, and writing those things down. Like, what's our purpose? Like, asking our teams, like, individually, like, in terms of the people, what's your purpose? Why are you here? What's your purpose? What's your purpose? Then does that align with why Frontier exists? Right? Frontier exists, and I need that alignment to be there so that people feel that alignment when they come to work, right? Because I know many of us have worked in organizations where you have your sense of purpose and mission that maybe it aligns with what the organization says, but it doesn't align with what the organization does. And that feels bad. And I desperately want to avoid having an organization where people felt that. So I want to understand what the individual purpose is of the people that work on our team. And then I want to make sure that they're validating to me that what we actually do every day, not what we say, not what our mission statement is, but that what we actually do every day aligns with what their purpose and their mission is. Right. So we feel strongly that if you live in a small town in Idaho or Alaska, you should get access to the same quality of care as if you live down the block from, I don't know, NYU, Columbia, or University of Washington, and had access to these clinics with world class people. Like, why should rural communities not have access to that? And so that gets people excited. A lot of the people on our team currently live in or came from rural communities, sort of being able to I feel like a coach and I was able to pick my team, right? Like I get to I that's what I feel like, and I was never able to do that until I kind of started my own thing with my partner. Like, "Ooh, I'm the coach and I get to pick my team." And, right, it's like any sports team, like people who perform, those are your starters. Some of them were on the bench and some of them just don't make the cut. So I think we've been able to do that successfully, but I think being very honest about, look, we just want people who are aligned with the mission, who are excited about this, and if you're not, let me help you. Let me understand why or why not, and let's just make sure this is a good fit. But the other thing is also feeding back data to our teams. Like, hey, last month, guess what? We saw close to 4,500 patients in rural communities. These are 4,500 people that wouldn't have had care otherwise. Nice job. Hey, guess what? We are now serving patients in all 56 counties in Montana. So many of those counties would never have access to psychiatric care. Nice job. Right? So these are wins that I want my teams to feel, and if they feel that and I keep feeding them kind of this information, it gets people excited.
It's so easy to forget to celebrate,
Yes,
especially when you're working in a field like mental health where sometimes you're surrounded by darkness. And so
right.
celebration is absolutely vital so that you're not consumed by the darkness.
Yep. And the other thing I've done, I guess I've probably been doing this for a couple of years now. I do weekly videos that I send. Like we have kind of the Google enterprise system where you have a Google, you have Gmail and
Yep.
all the other Google stuff, and then within that there's kind of Google Chat. And every week I send mostly silly, funny videos that I record, but that give everybody updates in terms of what we're up to. So I'm fully transparent about, here's what's going on with the finances. We had a good month. We didn't have a good month. Here's what we're working on. Here's a new project we launched. Hey, we just launched in Idaho. Nice work. But I will record those videos. They're about 2 to 3 minute videos. I'll make fun of myself. I'll make fun of other people, try to keep it lighthearted but informative. And I feel validated because a lot of people sort of at the end of the year when I get when I'm in touch with them are so grateful for these videos because too often the folks on the front line have no clue what leadership is doing or what leadership is thinking. So I want all of my team, my entire team to always know what I'm thinking. There's no reason they shouldn't know. Is that if I know, hopefully that makes sense and resonates.
It does. And that decision to be financially transparent is a big one, right? A lot of businesses don't do that. What have the implications been of being financially transparent?
We're not a nonprofit. We're a business. We're a for profit, and we've decided to give everybody, whether a provider or frontline staff, everybody has stock options, and with some vesting schedules. But I felt very strongly I wanted everybody to feel like they had a piece of this, and as a result, they're part owners. And if they're part owners, you better know what your company's doing. I feel like when people aren't given that transparency, it's a to me, it feels like a little bit disrespectful and like you're almost not trusting people with information. And people feel that. Like if you're not giving that information and you're not trusting people, people feel that. Like, okay, leadership doesn't trust me. I guess what it's done is it's made people feel like I hopefully like I trust them with important and sensitive information. And why wouldn't I? I'm trusting them with the lives of patients that we take care of. So why couldn't I trust them with some numbers?
How long has it been since you decided to give all staff stock options?
I'd say probably like 3 years. About yeah, probably been about 3 years, like, very early on, very early on.
Yes. That too is uncommon in general and in our space. What have the implications of that been? Have you noticed have there been retention impacts? How have people's behavior changed since you did that?
So, I don't know how much of it is I don't know if I can really point to stock options being the thing.
Yeah.
I I like to think it's a combination of, you have stock options, you hear from me every week, I tell you about the financials, we celebrate you. I have a couple of people who are these incredible I guess, for lack of a better word, they're like culture champions
Yeah.
who would like, right, they hear me constantly talking about this stuff, like, "All right, I guess Eric cares about this," so they come up with their own ideas to do things, like, we'll do, like, monthly after hours, like, get-togethers where 2 of the folks last month, they created, like it was brilliant, they created their own escape room to do online for a bunch of us to get together after hours. Every week we have like a 15-minute like coffee break online where people get together, have coffee, and just check in and not allowed to talk about work. Another one people have done is creating collaborative work time. So for example, it's like, all right, from this hour to that hour, just turn on Google Meet or Zoom, and we're just going to work quietly together and just kind of sit there and work. I know that you're sitting there working too. So half of the ideas haven't come from me. It's come from people who know we care about this. And so they're like, hey, I have these other ideas to make culture better, which is amazing, right? Because then it empowers your frontline staff because you've told them what's important.
Yeah.
They come forward with some ideas, and that alone reinforces kind of that the idea that culture is important and everybody owns a piece of it.
Very, very powerful and very unusual. And I think when you combine all of that with the fact that you have a distinctive mission, so there's a lot of mental health practices out there. And you can go to a website and you can look at what they say their values are and you can look at what they say their mission is. And no disrespect, but it often feels pretty similar, one practice to another, right? And the fact that you're focused on telehealth in rural communities, right, in the Northwest, that's very distinctive and specific. And one of the advantages of that is with your hiring and your culture, people can opt in or opt out. When the
Right.
mission is clear and distinctive, I can choose whether to be a part of it. I know what I'm getting into or not, right?
That's a great point. And one of the things I'll tell you, and maybe it's a kind of a little pointer for folks who run practices. For me, when I first started posting on LinkedIn over a year ago on a regular basis, I didn't know what the ROI was going to be other than I'm like, you know what? I have thoughts in my head around mental health that I like to think maybe it's for my ego. Other people should know about. And if they agree, great. If not, great. Hopefully half the information is useful. Anyway, I start posting and then you start seeing people respond and then it kind of creates this kind of it builds this like little community. And I've learned a ton. I mean, it's been really powerful for me personally posting because it helps me clarify my thoughts, it helps me understand what people are caring about. But I would tell you the biggest ROI, and that's speaking just from a business perspective, the biggest ROI for me from posting on LinkedIn has been what you just mentioned, and that is people are clear about what I stand for, and so what Frontier Psychiatry stands for. So when we post a job, the quality of the applicants has gone way up because they know what I stand for. They know what we stand for, and so I've been able to recruit and actually retain some great people that I'm confident like, it's night and day. Pre-LinkedIn versus post-LinkedIn in terms of recruiting and hiring, totally different. Much, much better now.
Yes. Makes absolute sense to me. And you again have prefigured what I was going to ask. I was going to ask about your relationship to LinkedIn, which I think you answered pretty well. But if you were to give pointers to folks who hadn't done it, so I'm running a group practice. I definitely see some benefits in what you said around retention, right? But how do I stand in the noise? Because there's a lot of people who are posting on LinkedIn. Over the course of a year, you've been able to build a brand, which is awesome. You've been able to attract and retain great clinicians. How do I stand out? If I'm persuaded by the idea of investing some time in it, how do I do LinkedIn well if I'm a group practice owner?
Yeah. So number 1, I mean, it's it's a lot of work. Wow. I had no idea how much work it was gonna be. I'd say for the last 15 months, I've probably spent at least an hour a day on LinkedIn every single day. It's a lot of time, and again, it's not for everyone. I happen to enjoy it. I used to back in the '90s, I worked as a journalist for a couple of years, so I enjoy writing, but and over time and again, I'd say the first 4 or 5 months, I was really frustrated and because I wasn't sure, do I write every day? Do I not write every day? How often? What is it I should be writing about? And so a couple of pointers, and I've tried a bunch of different sort of LinkedIn classes or courses and stuff, and I finally most of them were a waste except for one, and that was a huge game changer for me. And so, just a couple of pointers I would point out is the following. Number one, you're gonna have to show up every day if you wanna kind of develop really following and followers. You have to show up every day.
Mm.
Number two, you have to deliver value. So instead of writing for yourself, think about what do people wanna learn about. And so you need to when people see your post, you want people to look at it going, "Oh, cool, look what I learned about today," or "I can't believe that he or she's saying that. I need to get involved and say, like, no," right? So it'll spark conversation or discussions. But, and then, kind of develops what are called, and again, I had to learn a lot of like this LinkedIn course I took was like a whole new marketing degree. Like, so I learned about content pillars. So,
Mm,
so you need to have like identify for yourself, like what are 3 to 5 topic areas that you want to show up with every day. Like, and every day you pick one of those content pillars and write about it. The other thing is it's just showing up. For a while you're going to get frustrated and feel like nobody's listening, like you're not getting any traction. Over time, it'll start to compound, but it takes a long time. And what's interesting is when I started doing the research on LinkedIn to see, who are the highest ranked mental health creators on LinkedIn, there's a this tool called Favicon where you can look at rankings. They weren't mental health professionals. These are people who are just kind of these creators who liked writing about mental health, but they weren't mental health professionals. So in my mind, yes, there's a lot of noise, but there's a lot of opportunity for people who know mental health well to build a brand and be really authorities on this topic because there are a lot of non-authorities writing about this. And that's one of my motivators too, is like, I better be loud because I like to think I'm informed. I mean, I do this for a living, so my voice better be heard at least at the same loudness as those of people who are not sort of really professionals in this space.
makes sense. Have there been any downsides to investing all this time and energy, or has it been all upside?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it takes like too much time and energy, like from I guess can be too distracting sometimes. I have 18-year-old twin daughters who make fun of me because they think I'm an influencer, and so I get crap from them. My wife gets frustrated, like, Eric, are you on LinkedIn again?" So there's downside there. So it's again, what's interesting is there'll be moments where I'm like, "All right, is this just a waste? Is it?" And as soon as I start thinking that, like, something pops up, like, I'll meet well, shoot, you and I, for example, met over LinkedIn, right? So
Yeah.
I I've met some fascinating people that I otherwise wouldn't have been connected with, and eventually met many of them in person too. So again, I think if done well, the upside's there, but again, it takes a huge investment. You gotta like it too. I mean, because if you hate it, you're gonna stop within a couple weeks. So I just kinda happen to enjoy it.
That is a beautiful thing. Yeah, that background as a journalist is also unusual for a mental health professional, but looks like it's serving you well. You got Wall Street and journalist, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So I got to tap into those other parts of my brain.
Yes, yes. A conversation for another day to dig into those background points. But listen, I think this has been super informative. If you were to leave group practice owners or clinicians at group practices with one or two sort of parting thoughts, what might they be?
Again, I know I sound like broken, culture is way more important than you think it is.
Mm,
You need to nurture it every single day. The second you if you under communicate or don't spend enough time nurturing culture, it's gonna hurt you. Make sure you're hiring for culture, and if you have somebody in your team who is doesn't fit the culture or some reason, some way toxic, get them out. Get them out now, don't wait. Because, and sometimes people wonder, like, in healthcare, do I is it patient first? Is it my provider first? Like, what is it? For me, it's my team needs to come first, and if my team comes first and they're feeling inspired, energized, driven by the mission, only then can my patients get great care. If I flip it around, it's you can't do that. So really, so by default, the best way that I know how to give great patient care is by right. So when I think about like who are my sort of quote unquote customers, my customers are my team, my patients, and then the referring partners or organizations, and these are all my customers. So my psychiatrists, they're my customer. If I don't take care of them, they're gonna go away. So I just we don't do that enough in healthcare. Think about customer service and really being attentive to that. Sadly, the bar is so low in healthcare. Don't fall into that trap. Set a whole new bar when it comes to customer service for your patients as well as your own teams.
beautiful. And to wrap us up on a human note, when you're not working super hard on the practice or spending an hour a day on LinkedIn, what do you do for fun?
I started riding a motorcycle a couple years ago. My wife finally let me get one, so there's that. And then now that my girls are in college, my wife and I get to spend some more time together and traveling around Montana, so I get to rediscover Montana. And the rest of the time, we drive down to, Fort Collins, where my girls go to college, and probably doing that a lot more than they want us to, but I don't care because I miss them.
There you go. Eric, such a pleasure. So many really, really fascinating insights that I think practice owners and clinicians can benefit from. So, so grateful for that hour a day that you spend on LinkedIn and meeting you and hearing these insights. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Very flattered to be on this podcast with you.